What if the most dangerous moment for your heart isn't when you're stressed at work, or rushing through traffic, or eating the wrong meal? What if it's happening at 2 in the morning, while you're completely asleep, and you have absolutely no idea? Here's a fact that stops most people cold when they hear it for the first time. Millions of Americans, particularly those over the age of 60, experience a significant spike in blood pressure during the night, not in the morning, not after exercise, during sleep, when the body is supposed to be resting, when everything is supposed to be calm. They wake up feeling fine. They go about their day. They have no symptoms, no headache, no chest tightness, nothing that says, hey, something happened last night. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. This condition has a name. It's called nocturnal hypertension. And right now, a large portion of the American population over 60 has it and doesn't know it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something that most routine doctor visits completely miss. And that understanding could genuinely matter for you or someone you love. Let me paint a picture that might feel familiar. It's a Tuesday evening in a suburban neighborhood somewhere in the Midwest. Maybe Ohio, maybe Tennessee, could be anywhere, really. A 64-year-old man, let's call him Robert, finishes dinner with his wife. They watch the evening news. He takes his blood pressure pill, the one he's been on for 3 years, just like his doctor told him to. His numbers at his last checkup were decent. Not perfect, but decent. His doctor said, "You're doing okay. Keep it up." Robert goes to bed around 10. He sleeps, he snores a little, his wife nudges him, he rolls over. Normal night. He gets up at 6:30, has his coffee, feels a little groggy, but nothing unusual. He's 64. A little grogginess in the morning is just Tuesday. Now, here's what Robert doesn't know. Between midnight and 4 a.m., his blood pressure climbed significantly. While his wife slept beside him, while the house was completely quiet, his cardiovascular system was under real strain. His arteries were under pressure. His heart was working harder than it should have been during the hours it was supposed to rest. This happened last night, and the night before, and the night before that. And Robert's routine checkup, the one that told him he was doing okay, only captured his daytime numbers taken in a calm doctor's office at 2 in the afternoon. It never once captured what was happening at 2 in the morning. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. Robert isn't careless. He isn't ignoring his health. He's actually doing everything his doctor told him to do. He just doesn't know there's a whole other conversation that nobody started. And the truth is, there are a lot of Roberts out there right now. So let's talk about what's actually going on here. And I promise, no complicated medical terms, just a straightforward explanation of something your body does, and sometimes something it stops doing correctly. In a healthy cardiovascular system, blood pressure follows a natural rhythm throughout the day. It goes up when you're active, when you're stressed, when you're moving around. And then, and this is the important part, it dips at night. When you fall asleep, your body is supposed to shift into a kind of recovery mode. Your heart rate slows, your blood vessels relax, your blood pressure drops, typically somewhere around 10 to 20% lower than your daytime levels. Doctors and researchers have a term for this. They call it dipping. And a healthy sleeper is a dipper, someone whose blood pressure naturally comes down overnight the way it's supposed to. Now, here's where things go wrong for a significant number of people, especially after 60. Some people's blood pressure doesn't dip at night. It stays elevated. It levels off when it should be coming down. These individuals are called non-dippers, and the cardiovascular strain from those extra hours of elevated pressure adds up night after night in ways that a daytime reading will never show you. And then there's a third group that's even more concerning. People whose blood pressure actually rises during sleep, higher at night than during the day. These are called reverse dippers or risers, and the research on this group is striking. Their risk for serious cardiovascular events is significantly elevated compared to even standard hypertension patients. Now, here's the part that really gets people. You can have completely normal-looking blood pressure at your annual checkup and still be a non-dipper or a riser at night. A single daytime measurement doesn't tell you what's happening in the hours your doctor never sees. It's a little bit like checking the weather at noon and assuming you know what's happening at midnight. The snapshot looks fine, but the full picture is something else entirely. So, why does this happen? Why does blood pressure misbehave at night in the first place? There isn't one single answer. It's more like a combination of factors, and several of them are incredibly common in American life, especially as we get older. The first one is sleep quality. And here's the thing. Most people think they sleep fine because they fall asleep and wake up. But there's a difference between lying in bed for 8 hours and actually getting restorative sleep. Sleep apnea is a major driver of nocturnal blood pressure problems. When breathing repeatedly stops and starts during the night, the body responds with a stress response each time. That stress response, even if you never fully wake up, activates your nervous system and pushes blood pressure up. And sleep apnea is dramatically underdiagnosed in this country, particularly in older adults, particularly in people who don't fit the stereotypical profile of someone who looks like they have sleep apnea. The second factor is the autonomic nervous system, which sounds complicated, but really just means the part of your nervous system that runs on autopilot. Heart rate, breathing, digestion, blood pressure, your autonomic system manages all of it without you consciously doing a thing. As we age, that system becomes less precise. The signals that tell blood pressure to come down at night become less reliable. The finely tuned rhythm that worked beautifully at 35 starts losing some of its precision at 65. It's not a failure, it's a change, but it's a change with real consequences. Third, and this is the one that surprises people most, is salt and fluid intake later in the day. The American diet tends to be heavy on sodium, and a lot of that sodium comes from things that don't even taste particularly salty: processed foods, canned soups, deli meats, restaurant meals. When sodium and fluid intake are high later in the afternoon and evening, the kidneys work harder at night to process it, and that kidney activity, the body's attempt to balance things out, can drive blood pressure upward during sleep. There's also chronic stress, long-term background level stress that's become so normal it doesn't even feel like stress anymore. The nervous system stays in a mild state of alert even during sleep, and the blood pressure follows. And for many older Americans, loneliness, disrupted sleep schedules, reduced physical activity, multiple medications that interact in subtle ways, all of these feed into the same pattern. None of these causes are dramatic. None of them are the result of obvious, dramatic choices. They're quiet, they're gradual, and together they can create a nighttime environment inside your body that your daytime readings will never once catch. I want to tell you about a woman named Carol. Carol is 68. She lives in a mid-sized city in the South, retired school teacher, active in her church community. She walks 3 times a week and genuinely tries to eat well. She has a blood pressure condition, she's known about it for years, and she manages it with medication. Her doctor sees her twice a year. Her readings are in a reasonable range. 2 years ago, Carol started waking up with headaches. Not every morning, just some mornings, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. She assumed it was dehydration or allergies or the change in the seasons. She mentioned it to her doctor once, almost as an afterthought at the end of an appointment. It was noted and essentially moved past. Then, one morning, a completely ordinary Thursday, Carol had a small stroke. She recovered, thank God she recovered well, but in the process of figuring out what happened, her care team did something that hadn't been done before. They gave her a 24-hour ambulatory blood pressure monitor, a device she wore that recorded her blood pressure at regular intervals all day and all night. What they found changed the entire direction of her treatment. Carol's daytime numbers were fine. exactly what everyone had always seen. But at night, between midnight and 5 in the morning, her blood pressure was running dangerously high. Consistently, night after night, the monitor revealed a pattern that 6 years of daytime appointments had never once detected. Carol asked her doctor, "Why didn't we catch this before?" Her doctor's answer was honest: "Because we were only looking during the day." Carol's story isn't a medical horror story. Her doctors weren't negligent. The system just has a gap in it, a genuine, widespread gap, and Carol happened to fall through it, like hundreds of thousands of Americans do every year without ever knowing why. So, if this is real, if this affects this many people, why isn't it something everyone already knows about? That's a fair question, and there are a few honest answers. The first is simply how routine medical care is structured in this country. The standard blood pressure check, the cuff on your arm in the exam room, has been the default for decades.